Welcome to a special edition of the Candlepower Hour, Keys to the City. I'm your host, Mercury. This is Diego, and we're
Everybody.
here with our returning guest, Ross Rylance.
Hi, Ross.
Hey
Ross
guys.
is with. Hi, Ross. It's great to have you back. Ross is a retired tour bus driver. He lives in Santa Monica. He's a part of KW Realtors of Beverly Hills.
Correct.
So we gave him a call to sort of chat about this fire and what's going on. Sort of, talk about the efforts, talk about what we're going to need to do as a community, recovery issues, dangers, and everything else that we can talk about and discuss. So welcome to the show, Ross. We appreciate this. Give us an update and tell us a little bit about your recent experiences with this fire.
Okay. I would like to say for those watching and even in post history, this is an undocumented event that has never been seen. It's cataclysmic. The devastation is beyond comprehension. The Chicago fire was 1/8 the size of this footprint currently, and the fire is still going. You know, this hasn't even begun to end because we're faced again with more high winds Tuesday and Wednesday of this coming week.
Yeah, the Palisades fire is 11% contained as we speak right now.
Right.
So
but
the Chicago fire.
The Chicago fire, I'll send you a graphic, but it's amazing to see the number of homes completely destroyed has never been seen in the history.
So I have this app, and if anyone has not downloaded it yet, I highly suggest you do. It's called Watch Duty. It's updated constantly by these nonprofit programs working with the fire department in the city. And that fire is currently at 23,713 acres.
How contained is it right now?
11%.
11% contained.
Correct.
You know, this is, they say now that this could be the most destructive fire in California history and possibly American history coming up now.
Yeah, but then to top it off, the Eden fire is at 14,117 acres, and it's contained 27%. And then we've got all these other little ones that keep popping up.
We have a big situation going on here in LA. Yesterday, we'll get back right now, Ross. Yesterday, I drove by Altadena, and it was profound. I was overwhelmed. Imagine an entire neighborhood, a city, just destroyed, flattened, and spray painted flat black. That's what it looked like. A whole area of the map just spray painted flat black from the foothills all the way down to the 210. And, you know, this is a place that I live 10 minutes away from. Altadena is a place that I've been going to my entire life. I know friends there. I have a lot of folks have lost everything. I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know how to gather my thoughts right now. So, for you, and being a part of this fire, and you're telling us about Chicago and the size of what we're dealing with. What are we dealing with, and what are your opinions on this recovery effort and what everybody needs to do?
Yeah, and everyone in LA has been affected and knows somebody who's seen the worst side of it.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Ross?
We're all 1 degree away from knowing a person who's completely lost everything that they own. Everything. I do find solace that I just spent 2.5 days with about 600 roadies out here in Palm Springs. And we're a collective group of hard-ass working people who never give up. And
what's going on in Palm Springs right now?
Yeah, and when did you leave Santa Monica?
We were gonna leave Friday morning anyway, but we started planning to leave on Wednesday. Sadly, it took us about 7 hours between 5 different people to organize people to watch our 2 cats. We were going to bring them out here, and at the last minute, I called our timeshare, and it's a $500 fine, and you could actually lose your rights to be a member of the timeshare with huge penalties because of the health consequences if you were caught with 2 cats in your room. So at last minute, we decided that, you know what, we couldn't do that. We didn't have emotional support certificates, but we literally had to cobble together 5 different parties who are now watching 2 cats, and twice a day they go and take care of them. It's been insane to ask somebody to drive cross town during this
Well,
episode.
next time, bring your cats over here. So
you know,
that we can offer you. I got a place for
absolutely.
you.
I appreciate that, it just resonates with so many people. Like my 2 friends who left their house in Altadena and went to the Beverly Garland and took their 2 dogs with them, only to return to their home and there's nothing left. So they have about 3 days of clothes, their 2 dogs, and high spirits. And it was really a blessing. They called me the morning after. Again, we've been friends for 37 years, Jan and Muffy Alejandro. They own a company called Jan L. Case. They built the finest road cases for the biggest entertainment stars and the largest sports teams in the world, and have done so for 35 years. And they have nothing. But she was pretty chipper. And she said, you know, Ross, Jan and I wanted to travel a little more. So we're going to look at the bright side of this. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to rebuild. We'll just do some traveling. We got a great company. We trust all our employees. Our children are running the company. Luckily,
Wow.
the company's in downtown LA and hopefully would never be touched. But again, this is just one isolated story of right now, about 17,000 families that have been deeply affected. And I just think what I was starting to say is the roadies are pretty positive. We will get through this because the American resolve is what makes this country great. I have seen efforts before. I lived through the 2010 flood of Nashville, 150-year flood. It affected my home. It affected everybody. And we all came together and rebuilt Nashville. I think the cool thing about LA is there's communities, and the communities individually. We've already mentioned Altadena, Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica. Each one of these communities will come together and rebuild in their own fashion. And then that will give Los Angeles the sort of taste of the city. But I already feel it. That I've been on the phone with hundreds of people, as you have as well, and impacted by social media, TV, everything. It's an unprecedented event that requires participation by everybody moving forward. I would ask that everybody stop blaming what they think was the problem and just move forward and help people and prop people up. There are people who have lost everything, including their wallet, keys to their cars, anything. They don't have anything except maybe the pair of glasses and the clothes they left with, because they really didn't think they were going to come back to 100% loss.
Yeah, the cars that abandoned in Palisades to get out of the fire, those folks lost their cars and their houses.
Production
And
side
so-
note, if you ever have to leave your car in an event like this, leave your effing keys in the ignition. The car will be moved by people better than you who have the time to do it, instead of being destroyed because you left them in the way. Nobody wants to have their car stolen, but you left it there in the roadway. I will tell you, watching that bulldozer hit that Porsche Cayenne, I watched that 10 times. It made me feel good, because they're destroying a $140,000 car because the owner thought, I'll just leave it here. Well, that was in the direct path of fire engines trying to get up into Pacific Palisades to save houses.
Right.
Leave your keys in the car. Steve Guttenberg, we all know him, famous actor. He just went on camera yesterday, and that's all he said too. Next time, do it. I'll come out and move your car for you. He's up there working his street. He's still up there, and he's helping the firemen put stuff out. But his plea was, next time, leave the keys in the car. We'll move the car somewhere safe, and you can come home and at least have a car. Right? How nice would that be to have your car back after an event like this and valet parked after a world-class fire?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know. I laugh, but it's an uncomfortable laugh. But
I get it. It's understandable. You know, there was a story I heard of a family. They had young toddlers. Their power went out in Altadena. They made it a fun little camp. They're going to camp out in the living room and under candles and have dinner. Then the evacuation came in. So they had to tell their toddlers, okay, we're leaving. We're going to go. And they came back to nothing. They lost everything. And they didn't know how to talk to their kids about losing everything. And it was very, very heartbreaking to me because it was like they wanted to go home. They had no home to go to. And that was after I
there is no book.
Altogether.
There's a kid's book you could show a child or explain. I will also sidebar that I've grown up with my own mother, who's now 90, who at 7 years old was wearing a chiffon dress on Christmas Day in their home in Minneapolis, and she walked across the electric train set, and her dress caught on fire. And about 45% of her body is really badly burned. So as a child, I grew up always looking at the scars on her body, trying to figure out what those really were.
Wow.
And, you know, it is tough. She never really had a good, except the story. And you know who told the story the best was her older brother, my Uncle Johnny, who was smart enough, who was going into the Navy, was smart enough to immediately flip the dining room table over and roll her in an Oriental rug, which put the fire out. But she was burning.
Were you there when this happened?
She was on fire because, remember, this was 1950, and that track was live. She walked across a real live track with a piece of cotton that caught on fire because the electricity sparked it. Same thing that happens here in California. An electrical spark hits the ground, boom, fire starts. The problem with this one was we had 70-mile-an-hour winds, so it was like a blowtorch on entire structures. The other thing that the fireman said that in Santa Monica, who I talked to the next morning, I went out to try to go give out some donuts the next morning and couldn't even get anywhere near the line. So came to Santa Monica, guys picking up all the palm fronds. 90% of this is created by those palm fronds that come off those trees at 40 and 50 miles an hour, and they cut through the power lines because they're pretty heavy. A palm frond can weigh 10 to 12 pounds, but they have those razor sharp edges, and apparently that's what catches the power line. My 2 cents, I think we should have been better on shutting power off. It's a misgiving to the customers who don't have power to lose stuff in their refrigerator or freezer. But if we had shut power off, we could have saved more property as well. And they've learned that in Grass Valley, the Paradise Fire, right? Just what was that, 3 or 4 years ago? 2018, the Paradise Fire, where everything burned to the ground too. And it, you know.
Well, speaking of past fires, it affects me because in 2020, I was a victim of the Bobcat fire. We did our best up in the mountains. I have some property. We spent a couple of days doing brush clearance, preparing for the fire to hit the ridge and come down. Inevitably, it did. We were evacuated, and a couple hours later, the fire swept down and wiped out the entire valley that I live in. My house was spared by the grace of God. All the houses around me burned down. All my property burned down for the most part. Power lines destroyed. It took 3 months for the power to get restored up on that mountain. Airdrops, helicopters dropping telephone poles. So it was a complete restoration. And so it was traumatizing. It is CPTSD inducing. If you're not familiar with, if you haven't experienced wildfire, it's something that you'll never forget, and it's really hard to recover from. So my heart does go out, and that's why it does affect me. And so now my question is, with all of these fires, and we were talking earlier about the smoke inhalation, everybody walking around in the fire zones without masks. What are the risks that you think are involved with the first responders, the people who are hanging out, and all of the Los Angelinos who are breathing this toxic air without masks? I haven't really put a mask on. I really didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. Well, I thought about it, but by then the smokes were all gone. I was at home for those days.
The
So
smoke isn't gone. The fire is.
no, I know.
Yeah.
The wind
I
is
would say,
pressing.
here's the other thing I always tell people, and I'm really not too smart because I'm just waking up on some of the food I've been eating for the last 15 years by watching videos and canceling out stuff. But here's what I would also say. Don't trust the air quality index that they're showing you. Why would you trust somebody else to tell you, oh, the air's fine, go out and breathe it? I'm just going to remind you how many people have left this planet because they breathed the air at 9/11, not knowing that that building was full. And wait a second, there's laptops burning up, there's Walkmans burning up, there's AirPods burning up, there's all kinds of plastic burning up because we live in a plastic lifestyle. And the last time I checked, any plastic burning is toxic. Can you see it? No. No, you can't. So how smart are you to stand there without a mask on and breathe it into your lungs, and 2 years later, you find out that, wow, you weren't so smart. I was paying attention on 9/11. I still grieve about that day. I was sitting at O'Hare Airport as a bus driver waiting for Rammstein to come to America to do a huge U.S. tour, and I was driving the band. I was watching my TV in my bus. I will be honest to you both. I thought it was a promo for the latest Bruce Willis movie. I didn't believe it. Then when the second plane hit, I started saying, something's wrong here. But for 20 minutes, and I called 2 friends, I thought it was literally bought time on TV for a action thriller from Bruce Willis to blow Die Hard away. And I'm that simple. And so if I got duped, I'm sure other people got duped too. And because why? You have a hard time believing stuff you're seeing when it's that incredibly intense. And the
I think people
flames and the
lose
pictures, the
common sense.
devastation out here. And the other thing, I didn't know it, but Stephanie, my partner's lived out here for 38 years. The next round is the rains are going to come and they're going to wash all this toxic dirt and ash on top of people. And then people are going to stick their hands in it, and then it's going to get in your body that way. And so now we're living in a war zone with toxic chemicals and ash all around us, and there's not enough remediation companies like the guys with the green trucks who show up, ServPro.
Sir,
Yeah, how many ServPro guys need to be out in LA in the next couple of weeks? Maybe 10,000 trucks to clean up the mess that is the aftermath of the fire that is still not out and only partially contained.
and we're still talking about the old houses that have asbestos and all of the old chemicals that have been long banned. They all just got burned up in
realtor,
their
I
part,
can
the
tell
environment
you,
now too.
50% of the older structures in Pacific Palisades built in the 40s and the 50s that just burned to the ground. Every one of them was full of toxic chemicals. Yes, we register that through paperwork, But that didn't mean they're remediated. It means that the new buyer is aware that they exist. Doesn't mean that it was taken out of the home. So now they just burn to the ground. Last time I checked, when you burn a home all the way to the ground, that means everything inside it, lead, paint, asbestos in the ceiling, it's now in the air. That's where it went. There's a trade-off. Now, we will tell you, when we drove out here to Palm Springs, the cloud above Los Angeles was so overwhelming I couldn't even, it's all the way almost out to here. Once we got to sort of the funnel, Beaumont, out by Palm Springs, you could see the air start changing, and the air's blowing out here at 25 or 30 miles an hour, but it's coming from the east back towards LA. And so the air quality is perfect really out here.
The thing is, you can tell the air feels different outside. So whether you want to be ignorant to a mask or not, if you're out there long enough, you'll notice you're getting headaches, and you'll notice like you start to feel lightheaded and you start to feel kind of weird, and it doesn't smell the same. It doesn't feel the same. So you have to wear a mask when you're outside because you can feel it.
Tuesday
already.
morning, I walked to my car, Mercury, I'm sorry, to walk to my car and came back inside and literally spent 15 minutes on the couch going. And then Stephanie looked at me, my partner who has bad asthma, and she's like, hey, I think we should start wearing masks right away if we go outside. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And guess what we have? We have a plastic box with maybe 40 N95s from COVID ready to go.
Left over, yeah.
Is they're double banded and they're hard to get on and off. So when you put them on, you just got to leave them on. Right? You can't just, and if you go outside and you put a mask on, what is the point of taking it off? Because once you're outside and you take it off, you should have never gone outside. It's simple math. Even a minute of exposure with air that you can't trust could potentially jeopardize your ability to not be compromised down the road.
These firefighters who have been involved for all these days have been exposed to this is very concerning.
No,
And,
I will again say that most of the guys I saw, they all had backpacks on. They're all wearing oxygen masks. Not one of those guys was out there. Now, there's a lot of guys interviewing on TV and stuff with not full information. Even our own governor did an interview the other day with Anderson Cooper. They didn't have masks on, and they were standing right next to a burning house. I just think it's irresponsible to act so cavalier about a thing that we need to survive, which is air, and not think that the air is compromised by 10,000 structures that have burned to the ground. It's not just a couple of houses on your street. We're over 10,000 structures that are completely gone. Unprecedented, undocumented. Nobody like COVID. Anybody who's telling you what they can expect, they are so filling you with bad information. Nobody knows what's going to happen next and how we'll resolve it. But to predict or say that you have experience in what should happen next, I just would love to continue to harp on let's all stay a little healthy and safe and not trust the air index to be your friend, because that is produced by people who may or may not have your best interest at heart.
Taking overabundance of them.
Well, I've just learned that everything I was eating, there were labels. I wasn't reading them. I have consumed probably 40 gallons of French vanilla and hazelnut cream made by a company called Nestle in my coffee over the last 10 years. Even the guy stocking the cases at Vaughn's the other day looked at me and said, "You drank that much of that stuff?" And I'm like, "I think I did." He goes, "Oh, that's really bad."
You know that if you let that stuff pour it into a cup and let it dry for a couple days, it turns hard like a rock.
One of my co-drivers at a Love's one night at 3 a.m. turned and looked at me and he said, "You know that's one chemical away from paint."
I can imagine flavorful, paint with flavor. French vanilla paint.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Is
Coffee
this owned
tastes
by
better with French vanilla paint, so I'm just going to go there, even in
is
the
this
midst
owned
of a
by the
fire.
Coca-Cola company?
No, Nestle. It's even just as bad.
Yes,
You can clean your car with it, right? They show video.
probably.
You can
And
clean your
sure, it's
car.
like
Right?
Oh, well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I've seen the metal spoon in the Coke for 4 days and it dissolves. It didn't stop me from occasionally having a soda. But again, I just think it's awesome that you guys want to help participate going forward in our new future communication of truth and facts needs to be paramount for our success in these kinds of situations. You have to be able to trust. I would like to immediately shout out to both Diego and Mercury and say that I've vested myself before I met you both and then know you both now and live in a world where I know I can trust everything that you're doing because where it comes from and what it means to the people.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, we also don't know. It doesn't matter if 782 likes. You don't know how many people see something in the future and can take solace in the fact that, wait a second, here's an opportunity to get some truth and use that to further the betterment of your family's life in community when the community might not seem right. Now those people who lived on those same streets in Altadena, your friends, well, they're all in hotels. So there is no community until we have a community event in Altadena or Pacific Palisades. That some of those people are not going to be together again, yet they live side by side for 30, 35 years. My friends lived in their home in Altadena for 38 years.
Yeah, everything is just abruptly changes.
Yeah,
But I'm
and
sure
we're
in 38 years, you know all your neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm
We're
just going to
just
go
left
with, I'm
to-
pretty sure you knew. And they said they did. It was their neighbors who sent them the photo of their house first because they snuck past the police line. And guess what? Again, more gracious than I've ever been in my life when she called me and said, "Hey, Ross, Jan and I just lost our house. Knowing I'm a realtor, can you do this?" But the biggest concern was a friend of theirs. Her husband was a road crew for David Bowie. They wanted us to foster a cat for somebody in the David Bowie family. And that's what Muffy was worried about the morning after finding out her house was gone. And I was like, you know what? I can't love you enough, man. This is the true thing, right? Yeah, it's the true thing. It's so much more important than whether you had some gold jewelry that burned to the ground or whatever. Oh, you lost this or that had some monetary value. Again, the sense of community is real. And I want to tell you both how nice it feels to see familiar faces. Because we've been in a hotel room now for 3 or 4 days here. And there are a couple people here, not many evacuees, because they all went to the hotels. This is a timeshare. So most of the people here are just vacationing from other parts of the country, and they're not aware. We told some other people, they're the greatest thing out here. We went to dinner the other night, really nice restaurant. I wanted to take Stephanie out and make her feel better because she's terrified about her future. So we went to a nice steakhouse here in Palm Springs. Oops, I apologize. They immediately asked, "Are you guys from the coast?" And we said yes. And they said, "Well, great. We're going to take 25% off your check tonight."
Fine.
And I will tell you, I immediately gave that money back to the waiter. I don't want to take any free money, but it sure made me order something nicer. I looked at the $60 entree. I'll be honest, because I wasn't going to order. I was going to be about $38, feeling badass. I went to the $60 entree, and it was worth every bit of it. I ended up paying for it anyway, but it was the gesture, right, that made you feel so ingratiated to the restaurant and to the server. And when I went back up to the front, even
puts a nice feeling in you.
Well, the people at the hostess said, "Yeah, you got one of our best waiters in the restaurant." I said, "Yeah, he would." I almost wanted to hug him and take us home. I mean, you could see in his expressions and his face when he realized that Stephanie told him, she'd been up for 2 days watching TV. She couldn't go to bed. she was convinced it was going to come to our house and take our house, and she wouldn't go to bed, and it was hard. I slept both nights about 4 or 5 hours because I know from a disaster standpoint that somebody's got to be rested enough to drive. My only other disaster story was in, I don't know when it was. I was out on tour with Backstreet Boys, and we were in Florida at American Airlines Arena in Miami, 19 trucks, and a hurricane was coming. And management on the tour decided it would be really a great idea if we left now and tried to get to Charlotte for our next show. And that took 21
before the hurricane.
Yeah, it took 21 hours to get from Miami to Charlotte. In bumper-to-bumper traffic almost the entire way.
Oh, you followed the evacuation route.
Yeah, we did, but I'm telling you, we were in American Airlines Arena. The cool thing about American Airlines Arena is one of the newest buildings in North America. Guess what it rated? Hurricane-proof. So we left there and went out into the public, and that's the other thing I will counsel you. You got to know when to leave and when never to leave, because you will look like that movie Independence Day if you leave when they tell you all to evacuate. Then you're going to die on the roadway. I'll just be honest. I drove my whole life. You will die 4 lanes deep on that roadway because you're not going to be going anywhere, right? And that
makes sense.
Speaking of Independence Day, Diego said that he drove by the Rose Bowl.
I drove by the Rose Bowl when I was in Pasadena, and it was Independence Day. It was like a movie set. I was so impressed and overwhelmed with the disaster response, the setup. I've never seen anything like it. I've been to some serious disasters. The Bobcat fire that affected us. We had an army of firefighters lined up on the highway. The recovery of the Edison and the power sources that were recovered, impressive.
Well, that's impressive.
That was mind blowing.
Right?
And we're very blessed to be able to be sitting here right now and to be safe and to have our homes. The Sunset Fire was only 2 streets away from me. People were getting evacuated. You know, I was checking up on people. They were asking me, was I going to be okay? Did I have a plan? You can come here, everything. I had my stuff packed just in case. I saw my neighbor putting his kittens in those little backpack carriers in his car and tossing bags, so like trash bags full with clothes. And I was like, are you evacuating already? And he said, no, I'm just getting ready. I'm keeping an eye just in case.
Precautionary, which is good. It's good to be precautionary. You know, you got to take it seriously.
I took my dirty laundry. That was how I packed. I was like, you know what? If take all the stuff I just wore for the last week, wash it when I get out to Palm Springs, and I'll have enough clothes.
That's okay, you know. But yeah. I also say that, you know, a couple of the stories were, I thought I would be back. I thought it was just an evacuation. I didn't pack anything.
Right.
Tori Spelling, the celebrity, not to talk about celebrities, but
okay.
she didn't take it seriously, and she left, and the rest is history with her family. So
I guess people need to prep better, and as native Angelenos, I think we tend to be a little bit more cautious, at least if we're more self-aware about things. Because
right.
Yes, we see fires all the time, but you never know what's going to happen, and we've never had it this bad. You need to be aware of it. I was calling like my grandparents. They're not near anything, but we were all on fire watch all over Los Angeles for the past few days, right? And some still are. And they were like, do you have a plan? Yeah. And I told them, do you have a plan? You know, checking in. I mean, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, so they've been waiting for the end of the world forever. But like, you need to have a plan for emergencies, for disasters. And at least with these evacuations, we're being given warnings. So during that time, it's like, hey, you should pack. Don't wait
right.
for it to get dangerous before you leave, because that's when you end up in these apocalyptic situations.
And the packing is probably one of the toughest things, because what do you decide? I think it's adorable that Stephanie brought 3 little teeny photos that she has by her bed of her mom. I didn't bring it. Like, typical dude. I didn't think of any of that stuff. Right. I brought my dirty laundry. I packed in such a weird way because I was waiting right up till the very end, packing the car, do some other stuff. We did come out at the conference. I know you guys know I give Geraldine Brandelius's Grateful Dead family album away. We did give away 3 cases of books at the event. It was really magical. People were like, "Man, you're giving stuff away." And I said, "Man, I got 1,700 more copies of this book to distribute to the public, because I promised Geraldine before she left us that those books would get into the community,
Wow.
either by purchase or by giving." Yeah, it's kind of my job. Again, I want to remind everybody, I'm not rich. I do pay for the books. I'll get them for free. Nothing is for free anywhere. I wish people would understand that. But the cool thing is they act as a really wonderful thing. So Stephanie and I gave a case of books to, there was a bunch of students out here that are just learning about getting into rock and roll. They're all
Nice.
19 to 21. And they all left with a coffee table book about the Grateful Dead. And every one of them was smart enough to look at us and go, "We just saw them on the Kennedy Center Awards. I didn't know who they were. Now I know about the Grateful Dead. This is really cool." Because we're talking to 20-year-old kids. Of course, they don't know about the Grateful Dead. They might know about John Mayer. They certainly don't know about the Grateful Dead. And so, and then
they know about huffing balloons, but they don't know about the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
it was also cute though. Now they do. A lot of these kids who are trying to get into our business were watching the Kennedy Center Awards, which makes me, because
Start to blame for that, for not, educating them on
yes,
media.
well, again, but there's no radio stations like there used to be. There's no transition of music sometimes from peers.
Right.
But again, I will say to anybody, when we can lead with a gift in a time of need and trouble, maybe just one little book will make somebody, right? Because we gave a couple away to people who'd lost everything so far too, and they looked at us and said, "Wow, this is one of the first things we're getting back." And I'm like, couldn't be any cooler than a Grateful Dead book to start your life back onto having stuff, right, that means something to you.
Wow. Yeah. That's deep. Having stuff. When you lose all your stuff, it's nice
George Carlin said
look
it
at.
best, didn't he? That 7-minute monologue about stuff is life-changing, and it hasn't changed. 35 years later, that joke that he did about Americans collecting stuff is probably even more apropos than it was when he delivered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of awareness, I know that the LA County Department and everything put out a notice that if you lost important documents from the fires or during evacuation, etc., that they would replace them for free.
Yes, the
So you can go
registrar's
to their
office is
website.
offering that. Sadly, the LA 211 Airbnb sponsorship got, those poor guys
They
ran
got
out of
forward.
rooms. They were offering free week to anybody displaced. They ran out of
There's so
those
many
rooms.
people in need. It just got full.
Yeah,
So
it was, well, again,
overwhelming.
it's unprecedented. I do want to say this, and you know what? I'm just going to go on record. This is actually biblical. It's the start of a new century. They're going to be talking about this for 200 years, the LA fire.
yeah, this
And
is
if you don't
historical.
understand that, then you're not paying attention, or you might be living in another state. But everybody out here, their entire way of life, whether they are affected directly or indirectly by this fire, is about to change. Now they're saying there's jeopardy of the 2028 Olympic Games. Maybe they'll be repositioned because we can't build the infrastructure back fast enough.
Yeah, that
These
makes
are
sense.
these are real things that people are weighing on their mind while also realizing they don't have any lawn anymore, any lawn furniture, any clothing. and
Well, what are we going to do for recovery? How are we going to get together? How are we going to stay together? Because, we're together now,
Well,
but as the weeks progress,
I have one suggestion now, and it's the fact that David Spade put out a notice that,
right.
Everybody's been seeing and catching crazy people going out, starting fires when we're trying to fight the current fires. So he put a
his offers
reward.
5,000
Yeah.
for any capture, arrest of any arson, any
Yeah.
person acting.
If you're patrolling out there, please, have your phone ready, record for evidence, call your
Yeah.
local police department, try to ensure that they take it seriously. And then after that, you can call him and you can get a reward for it. And the only way we could really even start to begin to get past this is to prevent more from happening. That's the first step.
Absolutely. Live Nation is doing a show at the Intuit Dome on the 30th called Fire Aid. Where that money goes, who knows? But I do believe that they will have a phone bank that will, again, be unprecedented in the volume of donations, and that is happening pretty quickly. I believe.
Yeah, Taylor Swift donated $10 million. Her boyfriend donated $1 million.
But it'll just make people feel good to know that there's going to be a fund established somewhere that will give them hope, because there is a lot of despair about insurance. I was
going to ask you that as a
I'm
realtor.
going to be clear about this one. Lots of information going on out here about insurance companies canceling policies at the last second. That is,
well, they put an end to that, right? Didn't the insurance commissioner stop that? No cancellations right now.
Well, they're okay, but again, most of the cancellations were already coming anyway, and the homeowners knew them. These people live in high fire zones. Over the last 20 years, the data proves that the insurance companies were taking on such a risk to insure these properties completely surrounded by woods up in Topanga Canyon, where you can't even get a fire truck to. They realized it's a losing situation. Is there any politics in it? Absolutely not. And you're talking to a guy who lost his car insurance this last year with warning. And then, of course, the exorbitant rate they wanted on the backside was just insane. But that happened because some insurance companies have left the state due to legislation. And this is actually a pretty progressive, wonderful blue state. And these insurance companies picked up and left because it wasn't going to be profitable for them to do business. What happened was then we were down to like 4 major carriers. And the wonderful thing in America when there's no competition is prices will go through the roof, because capitalism is what drives our wonderful democracy now. More money for the big guy, less for the small guy. And if you're not paying attention, I really do pity you, because it's only going to get worse. This is real. Insurance
But is that
companies
not
didn't try to do this
inhumane?
to people intentionally.
Is that not inhumane that how many people, were within the past year rejected fire insurance for their homes?
But in defense,
I've been rejected.
If you want to be technical about it, all of Southern California is a fire hazard. So at that
Right.
point, what's the point of having anything?
well, again, I believe that on the backside, I don't care if you had the insurance. Guess what insurance companies are going to do? They're going to declare bankruptcy on this one. There's nobody can predict that up to 20,000 structures will burn to the ground. They don't have enough money to make the payout. They can't decide if it's good for you, Mercury, or good for you, Diego, to pay which one of you. So guess what they're going to tell you both? No can do. It's easier that way. More money left for the shareholders.
And at this point, don't you think that will change the future of housing as well? Because
yes,
won't it discourage people from becoming homeowners, and corporations will end up buying everything?
Absolutely.
It's already happening.
It's already happening in
But even more
Atlanta.
so
Atlanta is a prime example of what's happened over the last 3 years with corporate buyouts, where they're now reportedly over 21,000 homes bought by companies like BlackRock.
But now even more so because there's people who literally lost their homes, and it's like, oh, by the way, you're getting nothing from losing your home. Why would they ever want to buy a home again after that
Well, the
trauma?
predatory buying is about to start, and I would counsel everybody to take pause, hire somebody like me who will tell you you're absolutely not thinking correctly if you're going to take pennies on the dollar now, when the whole industry will level itself out. The property value of these homes that have been destroyed is still there. You just have to rebuild. Land in Southern California is some of the most precious in the world, and it's not going to change or go away. So, but it will take 3 to 7 years to rebuild.
I think the corporations are gonna run in and take over. You're going to see some, housing will be rebuilt, but it will be corporate owned. Everybody will be leasing. There will be a minimal amount of homeowners who will be rebuilding. I do want to say that I did lose my homeowner's insurance after the Bobcat fire, and we are now resolved to be on the California Fair Plan, which is the only insurance that we have available for our home up in the mountains. So, and that's going to come down to the valley. That's going to come down into, I think it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
So we do have to prepare for a massive change in the insurance industry, as well as a massive change in the realtor market and home buying. So,
well, cool news, just so you guys know, and I'm not going to be as diligent about it, but I certainly will point a finger at it. Anybody who had a property listed before this fire, if they raise the price of that house moving forward because it didn't sell before the fire, and now they're like, oh my God, I have inventory and I can sell it now because demand is higher, they're going to go to jail.
Good.
I know a couple of top realtors who've already put it on their Instagram feeds who are at competitive brokerages, but we're not really competitive. And you know what they're saying? I make $1 million a year. I'm going to spend my days looking for you, and I'm going to turn you in because you're a stain on our industry. This is not the time to get an extra commission because you help your client be greedy. This is the time to do something completely different. And the cool thing is, a lot of people who I didn't count on are already saying the same thing across the board, whether it happens in Tarzana or Beverly Hills. It needs not matter. We're going to protect the public from this predatory practice that happens in America. When people are down, things get more expensive. Not this time. Not this time, right? This is, again, you can choose 100 words from a thesaurus that will never describe what is happening all around us in Los Angeles right now.
I had no words to describe Alta when I drove by on the 210, except black and spray paint.
I'll be doing it next weekend. I'll be honest, I don't have an open house next weekend, and I am a driver, and I am going to drive around, and I'm going to take it.
Well, maybe we'll team up. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can help. A lot of people are donating. The donation centers are blowing up. The Rose Bowl has their donation center was so big they had to move it. Santa Anita Park has an encampment of refugees, so that is becoming overwhelming. Volunteers are needed there. I know that. All you have to do is show up. I did something this week that I've always wanted to do. I registered and signed up for the Red Cross Disaster Relief. It was an application that I went through. You have to go through a background check, and it was easy. And they accepted me, and I'm proud enough to say that I am waiting on my first assignment with the Red Cross. I don't know where it's going to take me, but it did make me feel good inside. And I do say that if you do have it in your heart to, and you have the energy and the drive, it's good to volunteer. If you can donate, it's good to donate. If you
have time, donate your time. If you got the money, donate some money.
If you have
I would
5
actually
cans of
say
food in
donating your
your
time
cupboard,
right now is
1
more
can of
valuable.
dog food,
Yeah.
and let's talk about that. We need, the animal food, pet foods, pet supplies, and toys, because of all the kids who have lost everything too. All they want to do is go home to their room, and parents have to explain to them there is no room to go home to. And I can't imagine that. So, recovery is going to be very, very long. A friend of mine just told me that this is only the beginning. The donations that are, everybody who's assembling now and who are gathering, this is just the beginning. We need to stay focused, so that way we don't lose the energy and we don't lose the drive, and that we continue on with the recovery process. It's going to be years and years. Los Angeles will never be the same.
Never.
I saw a video of somebody who makes like funny videos on social media, how they went to their storage unit and they took all the bins of squished, like these super soft plushies that are like cute different like animals and stuff, and they donated all of it for the fire relief kids.
Nice.
So they took video of all this. And, some people might hate out there and just talk shit and say, oh, it's for clout, but like they can just shut the fuck up, because in the end, this was all for something good, and it makes you feel good to do something
I've watched a million videos that have made me feel better. So it's absolutely insane to say that. I live for some of those videos. And yes, some of them you can tell immediately they're phony and fake, and they are only trying to get some kind of monetization out of it. But other ones come from the heart, they're heartfelt, and I feel better knowing that there are other people out there who want to help needless people for just the reason because they can. And that...
Well, you have to, that's great. And with that said, you have to beware of the legitimate organizations versus the illegitimate. And because there are many, and the sharks and the shysters are going to pop up. They're going to be there. They're going to give you paperwork. They're going to give you information. They're going to say, sign here, fill this out. Here's an email. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure that you know what you're signing. If you're a homeowner, don't just sign on the line. Take it from Ross. Take it from all the folks who are out to help you not get screwed over in this process. Talking about the insurance companies that just might file bankruptcy. We got to keep all of that in mind, because rebuilding LA is going to take more than just an insurance policy settlement.
Absolutely.
So, the community is going to have to get together like never before.
There's a forum between a bunch of realtors. I'm not one of them because I don't own rental property. But I will tell you, I was privy to a call earlier today where they're only going to rent or make property available to people who got caught without insurance. Right? The insurance will pay for a rental for some of their clients, and they're already lining that up for their clients. But like I told you, I met a couple, $30 million home. They canceled their policy 10 years ago. It wasn't that they lost it. They canceled it because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime. 10 years later, it happened. Luckily, as they said, we have more than enough money to rebuild. It's not the problem. But not everybody is in that space and can live that way.
No.
And let me reiterate what Diego just said. The scams and the stuff, even though we're trying to police it, are going to get out of hand. And people act in fear because, again, if you don't even have a passbook to get to your savings account to prove you had it, everything is going to be a struggle in this country. There is no whipping down. When my late wife had a stroke, I had no idea how to get into our checking account at Bank of America. She had a 60 or 73-bit encryption password. It took Bank of America a week to, I will be honest though, just so you know, we had a lot of money in that bank. And guess what? They were able to crack her password because I gave them permission to do it. But it took them almost a week to get me into our checking account. So I would count.
That's a good point there, Ross. You know, if for folks, you need to make sure that your bank accounts are secure and accessible in case of an emergency.
Or you
That's
share them
that's
with your
the tip.
partner, because not sharing them and keeping them close to your chest in a situation like this can lead to disaster. And I proudly, for 8.5 years while married to my wife, didn't have any idea how we paid our bills, where money went. All I did was hand my wife checks from the income I made, and that made me feel like the greatest guy in the world. What happened to it
You're
after
living
that?
like the Japanese lifestyle way, where the husband hands the responsibility to the wife because she handles the home.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
job was only to make money. Her job was to protect us, take care of us, and keep our life going. But then I never sat down like I've done with Stephanie now to figure out how we do it. Do we have it written down? Is there a place I can go if you had a heart attack or a stroke that would lead me? Because I don't want it. We're not married like my late wife and I were. We're not married, so there's some reticence to hand me the keys to her savings and 401ks and all that stuff, and I don't blame her. That's, but again, we do have it in a location where if she had a problem, I could
Speaking
go
of
get it.
Ross,
Say it again.
how are you doing right now? Because not only is the fire affecting you and the fact that we're not out of this yet, amongst other problems you're dealing with, how are you holding up?
Well, I believe that this is a really great forum to help me feel better. I've been disseminating a lot of information over the last few days to family and friends, which makes you feel good. But it's also hard to sit idly by. And although I've learned this skill from working in entertainment, while everything is burning down around you, you got to make sure that the pizza's ordered. Do we have coffee for the crew at loadout? Are the buses going to be lined up right? While everything is falling apart, you still have to do your job.
But not
And
just your job, you're taking care of people around you, but you also have to take care of yourself. And I know that you
correct.
recently had a health issue.
I can boldly say that I have had some health complications over the last year, which has compromised my ability to, feel as healthy as I could. But on January 29th, we're going to take those things away from me and I'll be better. And so, but that's been a 9-year process. It just, again, everything comes to a head at certain times. Luckily, a month and a half ago, I selected January 29th to have my surgery. And so everything's working towards that date. But yes.
So if you have prostate cancer.
Correct. And I've been fighting it for 9 years. It finally crested at stage 1. But they're going to I'm going to be at stage 1 for maybe a month. They assure me that the cool thing about prostate cancer is it doesn't jump to other organs. So I'm not going to find out a month from now I have liver cancer and I'm going to die at 6 months. They're like, it took 28 years to kill my uncle. So I'm pretty sure I'm cool.
Yeah, I think you're going to be okay.
He let it go untreated. He let it go untreated. So.
And you have the proper support and everything.
You have the support. You have the love, and it's good to talk about it. And we got we got you.
Yes,
whatever you need.
You've been very instrumental in that. But again, this is another thing I'll say, sort of mano a mano. Don't be silly. I have been monitoring this since 2015. And yes, the doctor back in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2015 told me I should take my prostate out then because I had prostate cancer. Turns out I didn't have anything back then. I had something, but nothing really. Now, 9 years later, and I've been monitoring it for 4 years at Kaiser because they're really cool about being proactive. So I've gone in twice a year and then I've had 2 colonoscopies in 5 years, just to double
Those are
check,
fun.
make sure. And guess what? They know it. And the cool thing is now they have this robotic surgery that is apparently so precise and so incredibly cool. And they go through your belly button, and I don't know. It's all like Terminator level stuff.
Hey, well, we wish you the best, and it's good news that you have the ability to get it out of you and to continue on with a healthy
Well, there's
life.
people I mean, no offense, we're looking at 10 years of helping families minimum moving forward. This has invigorated me because I come from a place of service. I've had a bunch of money. That doesn't impress me anymore. What will impress me is having a good time helping people and seeing people smile.
Thank
And
you.
my friends Muffy and Jan Alejandro, just seeing their journey over the next couple of years and what that takes, because they were, for me, it's my 1 degree of separation. These are the only 2 people that I've known for so long that I can trust everything about what I'm seeing happen. Cool news. Their son started a GoFundMe this morning. I think they're already like 40 grand in 1 day.
Nice.
On GoFundMe page, because they deserve this. They
Right.
have their own money, but they also
Yeah.
deserve to go out and have a $200 meal next week without paying any money out of their pocket, because friends gave them, like I did, give them a couple $100 and go just shoot to the moon.
There's nothing wrong with asking for donations. There's nothing wrong with asking for assistance. There's nothing wrong with putting up a GoFundMe page, as long as it's legitimate and as long as you're not an arrogant POS. You could be rich and put a GoFundMe page,
Absolutely.
because the money can go to.
It's not to save and rescue you. It's also, like I did after I lost my fingers in the first week, I had $32,000 in an account. You know what that did to calm me down and know that I didn't have to drive a truck in the next few weeks, that I had almost as much, I had half a year of salary already. It made me heal. It made me repair. It also allows you to go and order a nicer cheeseburger, a California roll at lunch that you wouldn't have done because you had that extra $12 that had been generously donated to you through a network. And the other thing I will remind everybody, stop looking at your friends to be the ones who give you the money. When my late wife had problems, and when I had my problem with my hand, you know who donated vigorously to my GoFundMe account? Total strangers. Do not hope and want your family to build that account up. Ask them to share it. It takes the responsibility of asking a close friend, hey, give me $20. But you can write them and say, hey, bro, I need you to share it 20 times. That doesn't cost you any money. And by sharing a GoFundMe account and getting out to 500,000 people, well, then it takes a life of its own. And even if it's only $5 from 15,000 people, suddenly you have $45,000. It's magic how it works. That's something that you also need to remember, is you
Well,
just
Rob, since you've done it before, what are the tax?
I've done it several times.
So
While my late wife was sick for 8 years, I probably did 4 or 5 GoFundMes because we needed extra money.
but then what are the taxes for that? Do you
It
even
is
get
income. It is income, but the cool thing is you can write off a bunch of stuff against it, right? So let's say you get, I'll use a quick example, $5,000 in your GoFundMe. Well, technically you can write off expenses to generate that $5,000. Then what you do with the money, right, especially if it's to buy diapers, formula, that's all. You take those receipts and hold them against the $5,000. And trust me, in a court of law, nobody's going to say, you got $5,000. Oh, you have $4,800 worth of receipt. You owe us a bunch of money. Even a judge would say, it's extreme circumstance. You use the money prudently. You're not stealing from anybody. It's not a charity you raided. There's just money to survive with. It's also okay to, like I said, to go and use it to have a manicure or a pedicure or something, a massage. I mean, these people are wrapped so tight right now that anything that could take them away from obsessing about their 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom, 2,100 square foot home that is completely gone, I believe, and I would endorse mental health, self-care is the most important thing that all these people can be doing. And we have to fund them to be able to do it, because maybe they don't have an $80 account to go have a mani-pedi at the shop, which is $80 with tip or whatever. And so that money gets to them for free. Use it.
Well, you mentioned mental health, and you mentioned, getting help and dealing with that issue. I do want to make a point that recently I made a bold step myself to seek mental health care, and it's transformed me. I've jumped into group therapy, and I've jumped into personal therapy. I've been going through a lot. We all have. The years have been overwhelming. So I will say this. The biggest step for me was walking out of the elevator and making it past the psychiatry sign that's on the wall. Because the stigma of psychiatry and mental health is so profound that once you get past that, once you can accept that you have just walked through a psychiatry door, that's a big step for you. And it was a big step for me. And I probably wouldn't have gotten through the holidays if it wasn't for that, the group IOP. And again, I'm part of Kaiser, so I am blessed that I do have Kaiser. But I just want to say to everybody,
shout out to Kaiser.
Yeah,
Kaiser.
I love Kaiser, but it's a blessing to have health care. So I understand a lot of folks don't. So
there are resources.
There are resources.
Have their insurance or anything, or they offer free and as well as local.
Absolutely.
Depending on your situation.
Even mental health care is going to an AA meeting. If you can find a group, if you could find a solid AA meeting, that is helpful. You don't even have to be an alcoholic, because you're getting support. And I'm not, I'm just saying that. Maybe they might say you're wrong, but it's group support that's important. And it's getting help and understanding that mental health affects everybody. And you can walk by that psychiatry sign and it will make you feel better. If you're hurting inside, if you're suffering from grief and loss and tragedy, and if it just piles up and piles up, there is help for you. Because right now, I'm able to say that with a strong face and mind, not a pretty face, but it helped. And I'm going to continue on with the help and the therapy, because it's important to me. It's important for Candlepower. It's important for what we're doing.
Right.
So you have to stay focused. So getting back to everyone else, you can do it. There's help. There's a lot of groups.
Never be afraid to ask.
I believe
Never be afraid to ask for help.
Within weeks, we're going to have fire support groups. Come on, they're going to
There will be fire support groups. There will be family support groups.
People are all going to get together, communities, streets, blocks, wherever they can. They're going to. And the other cool thing that I hope will happen is that meeting rooms and hotels will be donated to these kinds of support groups, so that people can get a sense of community. Because if we lose the sense of community, the loss will be far greater than just the houses.
Absolutely.
Because what makes LA, like any community, great is the mix of people, right? It's what makes this place great. And I've only been here since 2018. June of 2018 is when I moved to California. And I can look at anybody and tell them I will be not leaving the state until I go somewhere else. And that place.
I will never leave California. I love the United States. I love the world. I've traveled all over and have been very blessed to see so many places. California is my home. Los Angeles has been my home my entire life. And I am absolutely dedicated to the recovery of Los Angeles, Pasadena, all the areas affected, all the people. We're going to offer whatever we can as our podcast, as our company, our partners, Bill Matoyer, Dan Moore, Mercury, and I. We have our tech, AJ. Everybody is very concerned, and we are all dedicated to the recovery of Los Angeles. And so, you know, Ross, we have a big mission ahead.
Yep.
We're going to stick together on this. I do love the group therapy issue. It is very, very important. If you have friends, if you have community, if you have people who are in need, call them up, reach out, find out if they're doing okay, find out if they need to talk. If you guys need to go out to the beach, go out and have lunch and gather at the park. Call a bunch of people and just say, hey, let's all meet. Let's go play hoops, or let's just go and hang out at the merry-go-round and talk. But we got to talk about this, because when you talk about this shit, trust me, the group therapy for me has been overwhelmingly amazing, because you're not just dealing with what is inside of you. You're listening to all the other people in your circle, and you're getting the perspective of the horrors and the traumas that they're going through. And it really puts your trauma into perspective, and it helps. It helps to understand, and it also helps to be a part of therapy, because you're getting professional help from somebody who's trained to understand where you're at. And the videos and the paperwork and everything that we learned is profound.
And please don't be discouraged if you think you don't get along well with your therapist. Just actively find a different one.
Yeah.
Right.
Find a different one. There's all kinds of therapists. There's folks that you might not get along. There are personality issues. Don't let that ward you off of therapy. Don't say, oh man, my therapist was a jerk, so I'm going to go back to my grief and my hurt. So,
also this event is big enough that all of us could probably use a second or third person.
Everybody, we are only human. We're only human, everybody. And we could get through this together.
Right. Nobody can say that they weren't affected by this, and even at this point, which is maybe at this point 50% through the event, it's just too hard to let people not understand. And again, for me, I love the fact that 2 years, 3 years from now, somebody might watch this and understand what we went through. And that this
we may only be human, but that doesn't mean you can't be an angel right now for your city.
Right.
Ross, thank you for coming on this podcast. Thank you for this conversation. We're definitely going to remain in touch, and we will remain effective for our community. So if anybody needs help, like I said, reach out to us, reach out to a friend, seek mental health care. It's there for you. We'll get through this together. So,
thank you, Ross.
No, thank you,
Ross. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Candlepower Hour signing off.
I hope our next time when we revisit, we will have such incredible news about the rebirth and the rebuild.
Absolutely.
And the
we'll be checking in. We'll have you back. We'll be monitoring this as we progress.
It's just I just want to send that out into the universe that I do know that when chips are down, humans can do some incredible things.
We'll be like the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah, Los Angeles rising.
The resolve right now is going to be big, and even if it's only small steps, it will look really big to everybody, and being able to participate like this again. Thank you, guys.
We'll catch up. You're awesome, Ross. Peace.
Sit, Lulu, sit.
Powered by
electric acid.